Hello, everybody. Welcome to Love Wrestling. My name is Lawrence Cartier. My guest tonight is IWS and C4 champion and number one BB impersonator, also the champion of all of our hearts, Speedball Mike Bailey. Speedball, how are you doing tonight?
Hello. Thank you so much for that intro, by the way. I'm doing great. You don't really know that I'm the number one BB impersonator, do you? Like, there hasn't been a BB impersonation, like, tournament or something. And also, I should point out that BB is not a real person. So, like, I guess the person who does the original voice of BB is also a BB impersonator. And if you're watching this and wondering
Yeah.
who BB is, I just happen to have his head. So hold on, it's behind me right now.
Yeah,
It's
there
in
it
weird
is.
colors. I don't know why it's purple, but I'm sure there was a good reason. So this is the head of BB.
And this is the BB impersonation. And I'm very glad that we're starting on that tangent.
But yeah, he's a French Canadian alien. Well, he's not a French Canadian. He's a alien from a French Canadian TV show.
I am finding out here for the first time that he's not real.
He is not real. No, he is not a real person. He is. So I'm going to be. We're not live here. BB is part of the extended Speed Fam Twitch canon.
Yeah.
But here, when we're off the stream, I can happily say that BB is not a real person, but he is but a puppet voiced by what I can only assume is a human.
We found a way.
Alrighty. So tonight we're going to be talking about not only your Twitch stream, but something that came up from your Twitch stream, which is Friday Night Speedball. Could you tell us first how you started on Twitch and how the evolution of Friday Night Speedball?
Yeah, so I mostly started. It's a long story.
Yeah.
With not like much to it. There's no like substance. There's no moments. By the way, I've just put on the Twitch chat, the broadcast here, so I can talk to people. I know you're on other platforms as well, but I'm not sure if those are available. I also should tweet that we're doing this before I take a. Oh, are we seeing all the messages there? Is that from Facebook chat? Oh wow, my God, that's advanced.
Hello, Don Lewis. Thank you for stopping in.
Don
and
Lewis,
of course,
himself.
Our own Astrid Pizarro of Astrid Ass.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so I don't have to put on my Twitch, though. I should drop some emotes here to show that I am, in fact, an active chatter for the algorithm.
Hey, look, it's Speedball Mike Bailey.
There we go. Dropping those emotes. So yeah, I basically started Twitch in, I want to say, around January of this year, beginning of the year. And 90% of the reason that I did it was to get Veda to do it.
Yeah.
Because I knew she would be way more successful at it than I am. Because again, Veda has a Patreon and has grown a fantastic community through that. And I was like, it only makes sense for you to start Twitch streaming and be able to extend it. But in our relationship, I am the techie one, even though I'm kind of, but I'm much more literate when it comes to computers. So I knew I wanted to set everything up so I could figure out how to do it. And so I did. And I was like, why don't I do it myself? And then I started doing it, and it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I expected it to feel like work, but it was just kind of a lot, more fun and relaxed than I expected it to be. I started off playing video games, and then the stream, it slowly evolved into something completely different. And now most of what I do is just watch and talk about wrestling, which I enjoy a lot more than playing video games.
Yeah. And so
speaking of Veda Scott, by the way, very nice t-shirt that you have there.
Yeah. There we go. For no reason at all. Nothing. This is just my everyday shirt, which everyone should buy on Veda's website.
So honestly, I do the same. I wear Veda shirts half the time. It's an IWS shirt today, but the rest of the time it's Veda shirts.
But yeah, so once your Twitch started going, at what point did you start getting the idea for Friday Night Speedball?
So that was an idea. Well, so there was barely an idea for Friday Night Speedball. It was more like me thinking from several years back. Honestly, I want to do a Choco Pro.
Yeah.
Which, if you're not familiar with Choco Pro, it used to be Gato Move. It's basically just wrestling in Japan, but on mats, and they do a live YouTube broadcast, and it's just live broadcasted wrestling. And they've been doing it for several years now, and a big part of my philosophy of professional wrestling is that something that is holding pro wrestling back tremendously is that it isn't accessible. And I think the more you bring it down to bare bones, the more accessible it becomes. Like soccer is the most practiced sport in the world, because in order to play soccer, really all you need is a ball and 2 rocks to make a goal, and there you go, you're good, you've got it. Ideally shoes, but even then that's an option. And I really feel like if more people had a chance to like either do professional wrestling, just try and have a match or do some training, or see it live and in like what it's actually supposed to look like, it would be a lot more popular and a lot more enjoyable for people to watch. And I think getting rid of things like wrestling ring, which are a hassle to purchase and set up and find. They're not common. They're hard to find. And a lot, like, it's crazy to talk to people from countries where there isn't like a pro wrestling scene or like an entire culture about it. Like this is a detour, but we did a live stream for a promotion on my Twitch in Brazil. And in Brazil, of course, there's very little wrestling. So we had the head trainer there talk about how he built his own ring, and figuring out how to do that was a big part of making wrestling happen there. But I think that like wrestling, minimal wrestling just on mats should happen. When the wrestlers are good, it's entertaining. And I think Choco Pro proved that way before Friday Night Speedball was even a concept. And then the other reason I really thought it would be an interesting project is because there's a lot of wrestling on Twitch that is simply presented as a pro wrestling show on television, but it's just on Twitch. But if you've been on Twitch, if you spend any time on Twitch or run a Twitch stream, you know that it's not about just having people watch you, but it's about interacting. It's about the community. And that is really what I wanted to bring out of pro wrestling. I wanted to give people a chance to, when I started it, shows were barely starting to happen again. We could do training, but having shows was still too difficult. And I wanted the audience to have a chance to interact with the wrestling and actually like have their voice heard literally. And the best way to do that was to have Veda doing the announcing, who was able to speak with chat and then relay what everyone was saying to us, so that we could then, through them on commentary, have some interaction. And that was basically the idea behind Friday Night Speedball, was just minimal wrestling the way Choco Pro does it, but with that community feeling that makes Twitch such a special place.
Perfect. When you started it, did it meet your expectations, or did it like quickly start surpassing it? And also, like, how do you think the chat has played an impact on the evolution of Friday Night Speedball?
I had no expectations coming in, which was a good thing. It was honestly like so Friday Night Speedball 1, we're now up to Friday Night Speedball. We did 4. We just did 4. 1 was literally at the IWS dojo, the training school. Veda was hosting the stream on their computer in the US. And I just not even on Wi-Fi, only on data, did a Zoom call. And we're broadcasting the wrestling. So the setup was very, very minimal. And I knew it would be good. I knew it would be interesting, but I didn't know how much people would be able to connect. I didn't know if like technologically it would even work, if my phone would just crash 30 minutes in. But like we had a decent amount of viewers. The first one averaged about 100 viewers, which is very, very good for Twitch. Not good for mainstream television. That'd be horrible ratings if we were on TNT or something. But for Twitch, it's very, very good and is way above what I do on my average stream. So obviously, people were interested by the idea. People enjoyed it, and it's definitely grown it definitely grows and evolves in the direction that people want it to. That is what I love about Twitch and Twitch streaming as a whole, is that there is direct input.
Yeah.
If you're not being like, if you're doing something wrong, people nicely, of course, but let you know. Like if people aren't talking or just are not staying to watch, then you have pretty direct feedback, which is a great thing to have. And so Friday Night Speedball sort of moved in that direction, and people are very vocal about what they want to see, and I can tell what worked and what didn't, and try to fix it on the next stream, which is great for its evolution.
Let's talk now about the cast of characters that you've got who appear regularly on Friday Night Speedball. They are made up of your students. Of course, you mentioned Veda Scott already.
Yep.
Tell us about some of them.
So they're fantastic. I mean, I have never been disappointed in anyone's performance on Friday Night Speedball.
Mm.
So we have the Animal, Bob Anger, who had been wrestling for a couple years before he and I started training together. Again, as soon as, so he's smart. Before he got into pro wrestling at a later age, and when he was a bit older, and before getting into pro wrestling, he was already a very, very successful comic book artist. He is now the owner of Lethal Comics, but he did stuff with all the big companies like Boom Comics, who wrote the WWE comics that came out. He wrote on those and drew them, and he worked for Marvel and all the big companies before deciding I want to do my own thing. So when he got into pro wrestling, he already had that background. And like, without trying to toot my own horn, as soon as the pandemic started and I was going to be in Canada for a little while, he was like, "Hey, let's do something. Let's train together." And we have been training together every single week that it was possible. And he's been working super hard, and he knows that I'm only around in Montreal for a limited amount of time, though we're not sure how limited. It's proven to be quite extended, but somewhat limited. And he's like, I want to get the most out of it as I can. And we have, and like he's gotten tremendous from it, and he's like wanted to work together. And again, from his experience in comic books, he wanted his own thing, and he saw like the potential behind the idea. So he was very excited about it. And that's why we're now in Lethal Comics Studios, which is where he works and runs his comic book company out of. And then you also have Alex Mays, Kristara, Nathan, who all of them started training, I want to say, a few months before the pandemic. And they were all in a situation. Alex Mays started training a little bit before. Alex Mays was ready to wrestle and should have been wrestling at like right as the pandemic started. So he got like an extra year of extended training, and he should have been on show, should have been working, was absolutely ready to go, but he had that extra year of which was a difficult year of being able to train sometimes, but then be able to train without physical contact other times, and then be able to have only Zoom classes for a long time. But he stuck through it. Him, Nathan, Kristara all stuck through that and came out of the other end like more than prepared to be on shows, as well as Matthew Viviani, who had been wrestling for quite a while, but also, all as well, never stopped training hard at the IDVS dojo. Zach Patterson, who debuted on the latest Friday Night Speedball. Veda Scott, whom you all know. But I'm always amazed after every Friday Night Speedball, and I guess it's weird for them because they haven't been around wrestling for very long, but they don't realize how good they actually are.
Yeah. Like
the stuff that we're doing on Friday Night Speedball, though it's like minimal, it's not big matches with like lots of falls, but it is very intricate and it's difficult to pull off, and they always perform like amazingly. And I hope eventually to look back on that and are able to say, holy shit, we were doing this like so early into our careers and performing this well. And I think to me, that's one of the most amazing parts, is just watching them go.
Yeah, I definitely get that vibe. I was wondering, there's obviously a lot of comedic elements to what you're doing. I was wondering what some of your comedic influences. You mentioned Trucker Pro for wrestling. I was wondering
Yes.
what are some of your comedic influences? What do you watch and what do you usually try to use for wrestling or for Friday Night Speedball?
So DDT
Yeah.
has the best comedy wrestling in the world, and what I do on Friday Night Speedball is heavily inspired from that.
Yeah.
Because I think what makes DDT so good and what makes matches with blow up dolls so funny is that from one show to the next, you get to see a guy wrestle a blow up doll, or get pinned by a ladder or a chicken wing, or the most ridiculous matches. And then the next show, you will see them put on a world class top tier singles match. And I think that every DDT show has that balance. I also think, like, in terms of the long, like 6 hour, every Japanese promotion has their Wrestle Kingdom or their, Sumo Hall show or Budokan or wherever. I think DDT put on the best ones because you get such a good contrast of there's ridiculous, there's comedy, there's hardcore, there's everything, and it all leads up to great wrestling. And I think in order for wrestling to be funny, it has to be good first. And so I try really hard within the Friday Night Speedball to highlight both of that. And I always make sure that not only do people get to be funny and do the goofy bits and the absurd wrestling, but also show that there's a lot of effort put into this and it takes a lot of skill, and giving people a chance to show that and contrast that with the comedy, I think, is what makes it funny.
Oh, absolutely. So now moving on to I'm just going to throw a little bit of the chat here. Say hello. The boss saying hello.
Spencer!
And speaking of a previous Friday Night Speedball, what was your favorite hat from the Hat Royale?
So Chris Starr killed it with the cowboy hat. Like 1000%, and I hope that she never stops wearing a cowboy hat. And I think she might just be a cowboy from now on. But Nathan's tiara also, I think, had just a nice touch of class and subtlety that I really enjoyed. But I think it's like Chris Starr, the fact that she saw beyond the cowboy hat and really just channeled her inner cowboy made it great.
Not even in wrestling, just outside in life. She's just a cowboy now.
She's just a cowboy now. Sorry.
Yeah, that's her life.
She works at a ranch. And
here's Throwback. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Well, thank you for listening, my friend.
Yeah.
Greatly appreciated.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to be at the last Friday Night Speedball, number 4. I was wondering, how does at what point do you start figuring out the matches and figure out the card? Because the previous one was booked in the chat.
Yes.
This one, at what point do you go, this is definitely what I want to do? And how long does a card like that come together?
So, a critique that I have for your average wrestling show is that I think way too often one wrestling show is presented as several unrelated stories.
Yeah.
And I think on television that works. I think on Raw in 1994, that worked perfectly. You had everyone had their slot and then you saw them all next week, and that's fine. But I think especially in independent wrestling shows right now, where people go to see one show, they're stuck there, they're sitting down for 2 hours or however long the show lasts, and then they leave and then they come back next month.
Yeah.
So if everything is a separate story, then nothing is ever finished, right? Which I guess sometimes it leads up to a big show, but in independent wrestling, that happens rarely. So my priority when we make Friday Night Speedball cards is that the whole show makes sense together.
Yeah.
You get a sense of completion by watching the whole thing, and it's not one thing and then we move on to the next story, right? So it'll usually come from having one idea for one thing that is usually pretty absurd, like a hot chip challenge that I really want to do because I think it'll be funny.
Yeah.
And then see, okay, what can we build around that so that it can be one cohesive story that makes sense, and also a story that makes sense within the stream itself, but then also follows the greater arching stories of titles that are minimal in Friday Night Speedball, but also kind of exist.
Yeah. So starting from like the first card, like I can say being there live myself. I think I've told you this off the chat. I found it awesome. Like you seeing a match constructed and watching everyone talk to each other. You would think like it might ruin it for the future, but it's like watching somebody like draw an amazing outline and throwing a whole bunch of paint on it, and
Oh
it
man,
like
I say that so much. That is a thing
the
I say so often, and I'm sure you've heard me say it. But if you wanted to, like, if you had friends who don't know pro wrestling and you're trying to convince them to see it, I don't think like you should show them a match, but instead you should show them two people plan a match and then put it out, and that would give them a much greater appreciation for it. I think the best way to present pro wrestling to people that have never seen it, don't know what it is, would be to like have someone from Japan, someone from Mexico who have never spoken, never met in their lives, don't speak the same language, get together in a room, sort of weirdly gesticulate at each other for 20 minutes, and then put on a 30-minute flawless, one take, good from all angle, fight scene choreography, like live in front of people. And I think seeing that whole thing, that entire thing is professional wrestling. And I think just watching the matches, you only see part of it. It's a weird thing. Like, I'm glad we're breaking away from kayfabe, or breaking away from the idea of wrestling being fake and a scam of some sort, and we're able to be more honest about this is the art of it, this is what we're doing, because I think that's really how it's presented. This is maybe an outdated example, but I think a film like The Matrix, which was like only good, mostly good because of like the special effects and stuff, right?
yeah.
And for me, when you got the DVD for The Matrix, because you did get DVDs, those were discs, by the way, that you would put into a player. If you're below the age of, I don't know, 25 and don't know what DVDs are.
I love how DVDs are already old now.
DVDs
They're
are
not
old.
even
DVDs are
VHS.
done.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. I don't have a DVD player in my house, which feels insane. It's an ominous thing. Floppy disks were a thing. You remember floppy disks?
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, we had the DVDs and the DVD extras, which showed behind the scenes stuff. And I think like that, watching the high speed, heavily edited fight scenes from The Matrix were a lot less interesting until you watched just how much effort and planning and technology and how many people are involved behind doing that one complex, 360 shot around the guy. It sort of just happens in passing and looks cool during the movie. But when you know that, oh my God, this is a lot of effort, and this is, someone spend their life trying to figure out how to make this work, and then you see it, you go, oh yeah, that really makes sense. I think wrestling is the same way, and I think it's a lot more interesting the more you know about it.
Okay, let's break down the card a little bit from the last one.
Yeah.
For the first match was Veda as Superstar Shane Hawk, Professor H, yes. Andrew, and I got all his names in there.
Good.
And Andrew as Veda Scott. How did that come about? I know in the previous week, I'm almost certain it was Spencer who originally threw it in the chat in the booking meeting that he wanted to do you versus Veda.
Yes.
How did that match come about? And yeah.
So that it was pretty organically that it was for Friday Night Speedball episode 3. We decided to have a live booking meeting on Twitch, and Spencer pitched the idea of me wrestling Veda, but then Veda couldn't be there in person, so they had to find a proxy. So doing Shane Hawk as Veda, with Veda talking on the stream and telling Shane Hawk what to do as he did it, was a very, very funny idea. Veda and Shane Hawk are both super creative, great writers. Shane Hawk is his job is that he's a writer. He's an actual writer. He's wrote for many comic books and publications and all that. Veda does a ton of writing as well. But they have so many ideas, both of them, that translate into very, very funny ideas, but do not work at all within one pro wrestling show where there's no background, there's no explanations, there's no commentary. But here, there's a lot of background, and everyone who's watching is a lot more familiar with what's happening than on a regular wrestling show. So of course, like with an idea that's this far-fetched, they're going to do something great with it. And so that was on the first one where we had myself versus Shane Hawk as Veda Scott. So for the next one where Veda Scott could actually be there, it only made sense to have Shane Hawk as Veda Scott, wrestle Veda Scott as Shane Hawk. And it, like, again, it's just the most ridiculous premise, but I can pitch that premise with full confidence that they're gonna make something amazing out of it, and they absolutely did.
I mean, we got probably for the first time in professional wrestling history a attempted submission by calling somebody's mom.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, I would have tapped out.
Right? Can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Far.
Then the next 3 matches were all encompassing one event.
Yeah.
Which is the Hot Chip Challenge. How did that come about, and why did you do that to yourself?
Oh God, I don't even know. I don't remember. I think someone just like pitched it, or I just pitched it, or I wanted to do something with the Hot Chip Challenge. I wanted to mix it in with wrestling, just because I thought it had never been done. But there was a reason. I mean, someone must have suggested it. But yeah, I just thought it would be like the idea of having to ref the match.
Yeah.
After eating the hot chip would be very, very funny, which it was not for me. It was absolutely horrible and a bad idea. And then, but something else I like to play with, which worked out in that initial tag match of me versus Andy versus Alex Mays and Kristara, was that wrestling is better when something is at stake.
Yeah.
Wrestling becomes more interesting when something is at stake. And what's a bigger stake than you're going to have to eat an extremely spicy chip? And again, speaking of wrestling shows with 8 matches and no story that encompasses everything, is that like losers and winners kind of don't matter, which is not like a necessity for professional wrestling, but it makes it, you have to build a different kind of match that it makes it engaging differently. And I think for the necessities of Friday Night Speedball, having things at stake is always helpful. So I can't think of a bigger than having to do the one chip challenge.
So for people who don't know, the first match was a tag match in which the losers would have to take the one chip challenge.
You're right. The one chip challenge, by the way, is I still have one here, by the way. We bought 3 and only used 2. I don't know where we're going to use it, but it's a one single nacho chip that is extremely spicy. And it was viral probably 6 months ago or something.
Yeah.
It isn't anymore. But the one chip challenge is to eat the chip and then see how long you can go without drinking milk or water.
Yeah.
And then, but this was the one chip challenge. So there was a tag team match, which Animal Bob Anger and I lost to Alex Mays and Kristara. So then we both had to eat the ridiculously hot nacho chip and then wrestle each other. And then the loser of that match would have to ref the next match without getting water or milk. And the winner of the match would get a nice, cold, tall glass of milk.
And for those who are watching, you didn't quite get the full experience of how, like, if you had to be in the room to see how bad you had it, but Animal Bob Anger, who you roped into this match, made it clear beforehand that he does not do well with spicy food. Repeatedly online. And that lived up to the hype. That was not kayfabe, as it were. That man was going through it, even with the milk.
He was.
Yeah.
So when I pitched the initial match, I was like, I have this idea. I don't remember who I pitched it to first, but I pitched the idea. And then I was like, do you want to do this? And he was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm in. And so Bob Anger is the most enthusiastic guy in the world, has no anxiety, just goes into whatever. So he originally pitched losing the whole thing and having to edge the match. And I was like, I don't think so. If you watch any of my matches, I have a very, very high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
and I'm good with spicy food generally. So I was like, I think I'll be okay to do it. And so spoiler alert, I did not die. I like survived. I didn't throw up. I didn't end up in the hospital or like anything like that. I just felt terrible. But yeah, he was not happy after.
Yeah.
Did not do well. He was glad he did it. So even at the next show, so we did that Friday Night Speedball, and then we had the IWS show at the MTELUS on the Saturday. Backstage before his match at that show, he was like, "I am still feeling it. It is not good."
Yeah.
So it lasted a while.
So, I'm wondering what is the possibly next for Friday Night Speedball, and what are you thinking next for your Twitch stream?
We have so many. I have so many
Yeah.
ideas. So we did, as I alluded to before, we did a live stream of a show in Brazil.
Yeah.
They did a Zoom call, and I'm looking to do more of that. So we had a lot of viewers, and everyone was so kind in that, like following all the people and showing support to the people who wrestled on the show in Brazil, because that's why they're doing it. Really, it's very hard to get visibility from that area, and I'm looking to do more of that. Honestly, I've really enjoyed the like actual broadcasting of wrestling, and it's a very, very 2021 thing that we can just have someone do a Zoom call and we can do a show that way, and it works very well. So I'd like to do more of that. Again, the stream is always evolving, and I'm always looking for different things to do. I have so many ideas for upcoming Friday Night Speedballs. So I think the next one is not going to be as soon, probably sometime early next month. I'll announce the date eventually. But I mean, I have, since I did the first one, I've had nothing but ideas for things to do, and I have so many things in mind. Doing a Squid Games match is really and then as part of that, we can play Red Light Green Phantom. If you know who the Green Phantom is, that's always an idea. I'd like to bring more people in, have different people wrestle, and as well as have different people host it. I think it would be great to have other Twitch streamers on the commentary with people live on the show, rotating in and out with them. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But as well, I think we've barely begun to like scratch the surface of the idea of Friday Night Speedball, because Twitch is a great place for wrestling, and I think it's been very poorly exploited thus far. So I'm really looking to do more with that.
Perfect. So we're going to wind it down. I just want to thank you so much for coming on, and I'll let you plug all your stuff and give you the big screen and see if this works. No. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. So I'm at Speedball Bailey on Twitter and Instagram. Twitch.tv/Speedball Bailey is where I stream. I'll be streaming tomorrow at 11 a.m. as well as Friday if you're watching this live. Also have a YouTube channel that I'm actively trying to grow. I'm up to like 330 subscribers, trying really hard to get to 1,000. Thank you, Matt's dad. Those are the Speed Fam values, which are speed, family, and values. Lots of fun stuff on the stream. So yeah, and I will keep you guys updated for when the next Friday Night Speedball happens, as well as uploading the previous one on my YouTube.
And Spencer volunteering his tribute.
You're on.
Yeah. But he would have to eventually come to Montreal one time, come to an IWS show, be on Friday Night Speedball one time, right. Spencer. As far as us, everyone should follow our sponsor, RK Athletics, out of Edmonton. They are doing personal training and online resources. You can check them out at RK Athletics 1 on their social media. And I am Lawrence Cartier at CartierNDG on Twitter and Instagram. If you enjoyed us, please follow all our channels. If you aren't already, follow Speedballs. Also follow Veda Scotts, who's also. And also your opponent at the next IWS show, Big Ben Ortman.
Yes.
Friend
Ben.
Friend of both of ours, friend of Spencer's. His Twitch channel. Again, Speedball, thank you so much. I just want to quickly say, for all the wrestling fans, we all sadly heard the news about Ring of Honor. We're obviously thinking of everyone that was recently released and going to be finding a job. That's the first thing on everyone's mind, honestly. Again, thank you so much, Speedball.
Thank you.